This Week in Startups is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. Visit gotomeeting.com, click the Try It Free button, and sign up for a 30-day trial. And Envision. Find out why so many hot startups are using Envision to prototype, present, and collaborate on design in real time. Sign up for a 90-day free trial today at envisionapp.com/twist. Today's episode, filmed at the Launch Festival 2016, features Jason talking to the leaders of two powerhouse global communities. Jeff Glueck, CEO of Foursquare.
So our community is kind of like a Google bot. It's out within 24 hours globally. We pretty much know any new business that moves or closes or opens because the community tags it, and then the community builds shapes for these businesses, which is now the core of our technology.
And Adi Tatarko, co-founder and CEO of Houzz.
We wanted to remove the barriers between these people and their dream to live in a nice place and the actual process, the actual service providers, the ability to get to all these people and product and materials.
Please welcome Jeff Glueck of Foursquare. Come on out, Jeff. Okay, thanks for coming. Okay, so Foursquare, Square, Swarm, two different apps.
Right.
You're the CEO now, and Foursquare is this company. How many people here use Foursquare or Swarm? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, looks like, wow, pretty good showing. At least a third, maybe half of the audience. What is the business of Foursquare and Swarm today? Because we all fell in love with Foursquare back in the day. Then you guys decided to split the check-in feature out to Swarm.
Right.
And that was a little bit confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But I stopped using Swarm except through Instagram where I check in.
Sure.
But I use Foursquare like crazy because it has the best, I find it's much better advice for where to eat than Yelp. It's sort of like Zagat versus, I don't know, the Yahoo directory or something.
Right.
So why did you guys split them up? And was that a good idea? Would you do that again?
Yeah, I think we have two apps, and so the basis is different for them, as you say. Foursquare has become a city guide to every place in the world, and what we love about Foursquare is that it actively gets to know you, and it makes recommendations for authentic, memorable places. And it doesn't just do that. It tells you, hey, if you're going to go to this amazing tapas place in Barcelona that you're around the corner from, here's what you have to order. This is the thing that they're known for, and our crowdsourced community creates all that. So everything starts from the crowdsourced community. Swarm, the motivation is really to turn every day into a game. And so people, compete to be the mayor, or they compete to win sort of sticker badges or coins against their friends, and that is at an all-time high. So our check-ins daily last week hit about 8 million daily. We have about 50 million monthly active users globally, and so check-ins per day globally is at an all-time high in the history of the company. And so each is thriving in its own way. It definitely was confusing when it was rolled out. But there were a lot of people who really loved the competition piece of Swarm, but that was particularly popular among millennials and around the world in the US, Brazil, Russia, Turkey. And then there was another set of people that didn't want to participate in that game necessarily, and they just wanted great advice on where to eat, where to go, what to do. And so we opened up both markets, was the theory with the split. Now, it took a while, but now they're both growing globally nicely. And ultimately, we have to keep investing back in them because making cities easier to use and guiding people to memorable, authentic experiences, that's what we offer the community. In return, the community is out exploring the world and mapping the world. So our community is kind of like a Google bot. It's out within 24 hours globally. We pretty much know any new business that moves or closes or opens because the community tags it, and then the community builds shapes for these businesses, which is now the core of our technology.
Got it. And so you have one group of people who's obsessed with checking in. Who are those people who are obsessed with checking in? Because yes, 8 million check-ins a day is truly impressive. I'm guessing the average person does 4 or 5, or 3, 4 or 5. What does the average Swarm user check in a day? These competitive people.
Yeah, I mean, the average Swarm user is using the app about 30 times a month.
Okay.
So, and almost always they're checking in, and so it's about a check-in a day.
Right.
And so, but some people check in hundreds of times a month, and other people are more casual. So, depends on how into the game you are.
Is this idea of checking in? It's would you say that's a niche business now? You kind of explored it, and it's it's not a mainstream behavior, but it's a really great way to get data. Is that what the conclusion Foursquare has come to?
I think I wouldn't put it that way, but there's a certain truth to that, in that like Waze, where when you have 1% of the drivers, you understand the traffic. Like Dark Sky, if any of you use that weather app that sort of crowdsources understanding of barometers to neighborhoods, we're kind of like, if we have 1% to 2% of every society out exploring, using it and mapping every business, then we have the best map of the world. We beat Google, we beat Facebook at mapping the world and understanding foot traffic in the world. And that has all kinds of economic value. And that's how we are going to create a sustainable long-term business that lets us invest back value to the community.
Okay, let's go through the deck here. Obviously, slide number 2, we talked a little bit about the contextual awareness and knowing what dish to order, and it comes up on your iPhone. Very cool. You can click ahead, I guess.
Yeah, this is kind of, I brought a couple shapes of places to illustrate how powerful the tagging of every business and every place in the world is. So, if you use Foursquare Swarm, the magic is you can be turning a corner in Barcelona and get a tap on your phone saying, hey, there's this amazing tapas place, and your friends, say you have to try the octopus, or you're sitting down at a new restaurant, and within 5 minutes we understand that you're at that restaurant, and you'll get a buzz of what's good here. So this kind of magical awareness of where in the real world a phone, a wearable device is, it takes a lot of technology. We've been at it for 6 years, and so part of it is understanding every business in the world as a shape, the way the phone sensors see it. So this is the Mall of America, which is pretty easy from a satellite map to draw. And this is just a week. These dots are all a week of check-ins, just 1 week of check-ins. And you get this sort of machine learning truth. The center of the shape, the blue dots, are within the polygon, and we get these concentric circles to build the shape. That's pretty easy to do from a satellite map. It's pretty hard to understand that the J. Crew, however, which is this shape, is on the 2nd floor, which we understand through Wi-Fi triangulation and beacons, and the GPS shape of that. There's no way you can understand that from satellite, and we understand the shape. We understand the Starbucks inside the Mall of America, because through 8 billion check-ins, we've mapped basically every material business in the world. And so the community is constantly evolving, and there are people who walk down the block and they're the pink dots who still have their latte and check in. But
that's what I do, because sometimes, I don't want to check in. I do like a post check-in.
A post check-in,
because exactly. I'm like, well, I don't want people to drop by, so I check in on the way out.
You're a celebrity, so
like a mini celebrity.
So that's a little bit how it works, and then constantly we're out creating these shapes, and the community is tagging them. But it also tells us what time of day they're popular. It tells us we've mapped 100 million Wi-Fi connection points in the world. We've mapped several million beacons, and we've mapped 100 million places. About 65 million are businesses. So what can you do with all this data? We could talk about. But the beauty is that the community is constantly, every business has a shape, and it's the way the phones see the world, which lets us connect the phone in your pocket or your purse or in your hipster bag to the place that you happen to be standing. Like, this is the High Line, and automatically when the High Line in New York, if you know it, gets bigger because they added another section, our community tags a new shape, and the shape evolves. And so every day people are out there keeping these shapes fresh, which lets us do something magic, which is you don't have to check in anymore for contextual awareness. That you just simply if you are at the beer garden at the Standard in New York on Thursday night when people are spilling out, the shape actually extends into the street in the meatpacking district. And we understand that the phone in the purse or the phone in your back pocket is in that place at that time, and we can ping you with a tip or advice. So that's kind of a bit of magic, which lets us start to understand in aggregate the foot traffic patterns of the entire world's economy.
Hey everybody, let me take a moment to tell you about GoToMeeting, which I use all week long. Yes, I'm meeting all the new potential incubator companies and looking at their products, and I do it. I've taken my meeting game to the next level with GoToMeeting. It is so easy to use. I recommend it wholeheartedly. I've used it for years. It's so easy to collaborate with clients and colleagues from anywhere. And so, be a meeting MVP no matter where you are. You can use your phone, you can use your tablet, you can use your desktop. It's so easy to get these meetings going because you can just do it with one click. I have it in a Chrome toolbar in my Google Calendar. I put something in my Google Calendar, or somebody else puts it in mine. One click, I add a GoToMeeting, and then everybody just clicks on the link, and magically everybody's in there, perfect voice over IP, or they can dial in. It works so well. And one of the little features that I love to use is I will have my executive assistant on the phone with me taking notes. You can also record the call, and we of course do that sometimes if we want to take notes. And there's a little chat room in there, so I can chat with people and take notes, and I give startups my notes, my candid notes on what I think of their companies. So all these great little features. And one thing I love is I always have one or two people who are calling in, they're on the road, they've got noise, they don't know how to mute their phone, they forgot their headset. You, if you're in control of the meeting, can mute the participants. So you ever be on one of those phone calls and somebody's like in a wind tunnel, and you're like, who's doing that? Well, you can just go mute, boom. If you're the conference organizer, it works so beautifully. Those are my little tips for you. Screen sharing and passing it off to other presenters, another wonderful thing. I'll have a meeting with 2 or 3 people, and we'll pass the presentation wand from one to the next. It just works. It's so easy for you to step up your meeting game. So I want you to do this right now. It's time for you to put out your best performance. Go ahead and be the meeting MVP of your next meeting. Just start your 30-day trial at gotomeeting.com. Click the Try It Free button. That's, once again, go to gotomeeting.com and click the Try It Free button. You are going to love it. I use it all the time. It gets my highest rating. I love GoToMeeting. Okay, let's get back to this episode.
What is the value now of having all this data? Because, in the beginning days, it seemed like, okay, checking in was great because of serendipity. That was the big selling point Dennis had, and it was true. Every year, 2 or 3 times, I would see somebody check in. But it was a couple of time a year kind of serendipity moment. It wasn't enough. And then the next value proposition I heard for all this was we're going to be able to target ads to you, which to me seems torturous. But are the ads being targeted now to me based on location in apps like Foursquare or others? And is it valuable to me as a user, or is it dystopian?
I think so.
Or somewhere in between.
Yeah, so we're tracking 1 billion visits, and it does inform a sort of view of the world. But we're getting a lot of value. I mean, advertising is one piece of how we create a business. Supporting developers, like the people in this hall and the other hall, is a huge part of our business. We have 100,000 developers, and anyone who wants to have location awareness or POI in their app, whether it's a fitness app or whether it's a news app or weather app or a restaurant recommendation app, most people are going to start out with the Foursquare Two Fishes API. But now we have a lot of corporate customers. So Twitter's long-term geo platform is built on us, and today they launched something new. You can check out what Jack just tweeted about something new where we're creating Twitter pages for businesses around the world, jointly between Twitter and Foursquare. Pinterest location tagging, anytime you tag a place in the world with Pinterest, that's our platform. Microsoft Cortana's recommendations around the world are based on our technology and data. Yahoo uses us, all these folks. So that's a big piece of the platform. And advertising is a piece of it. We actually would love to get to the point where the apps have no advertising in them at all, because really, the idea is understanding, if you are Nike and you want to find the 15 million American phones that frequent gyms 3 times a week, like the intense, or go running in parks, we have an understanding of about 66 million Americans through our own apps, but also importantly through partner apps. And we understand,
how do they get in the partner
where
apps?
They go.
Is that because the partners are using your data? So if they use your data, if they use the point of interest data, you get to tag those users, so you get to build your database.
No, it's slightly different. The developer partners don't pass back information on our users at all, on their users. We have a different set of users that become part of the pinpoint, a different set of apps or developers or publishers that become part of the pinpoint network, as well as exchanges. And so when there are ad calls and there's a geo tag on them, to most people, it's just a lat long, latitude and longitude. But to us, you're at the Equinox gym. To some, you're at the J. Crew. You're at Burger King. And so, I'm not a big fast food person myself, but there are a lot of people who are. So if Burger King wants to find 16 million American phones that go to fast food 2 times or more a week, we know who those people are by device, non-Foursquare.
I think Equinox needs to know who they are more.
Well, it's healthier, certainly.
Yeah, exactly.
and so if you go to bars a lot, then maybe Brown Foreman or Patron Tequila wants to talk to you. You're a certain demographic, or you've been at car lots lately.
Is advertising,
and you go to check the sports scores. Then yeah, we'd love to connect the digital and physical world that way.
So are advertisers? Is it working advertising on mobile phones as a general category, or is the better use of this data that when I get back to my desktop, instead of showing me an ad based on San Francisco, it's showing me an ad based on, hey, this person does a lot of hiking and selling boots.
It's absolutely working, and we actually have just created a new way to measure it. I think the thing about mobile is, mobile is with you all day long. Like most people, you check it in the morning and you check it before you go to bed. It's ever present. And as newspapers and TV come down, less TV, but more newspapers and radio come down, and other traditional media like Yellow Pages, then over half of our digital time is spent between desktop and mobile. And so that is where people's attention is. And yeah, it works. And so we started measuring it. In fact, it was a fun thing we launched. Was kind of like a Nielsen of the real world. So last week we launched this as attribution. So the promise to folks is you run ads on mobile or desktop, and we'll measure whether people who see the ads actually care about them, whether it actually is a message that's relevant to them, and whether, as judged by, do they walk into one of your locations in the next week. And you can even measure it again. So we looked at the Super Bowl. It was kind of a fun example. Usually we're tracking digital ads. But we saw that most of the advertisers in the Super Bowl, it didn't work. Like most people on the Super Bowl ads didn't work. But these ones I have up on the screen actually drove lift versus their industry. So Hyundai had 4 ads, and visits to Hyundai dealerships in the week after the Super Bowl were up 5% versus control. So that's worth it. That's powerful, and we're able to measure that.
They could actually, if they get a 10% lift at all those Taco Bells, that might actually equal some percentage of the $5 million ad. I don't know what it pays back, but some percent.
Well, a car is a good sized purchase, exactly. And so, but I think it's kind of like the Holy Grail. Like, for me, I was a CMO for many years, and so I always want to know what part of my advertising works. And so by taking about 11 million users who've opted in out of our 50 million to this kind of always-on awareness on an aggregate anonymous basis, we're able to say hey, J. Crew, people who saw ads, this is the lift. These people who saw an ad, this was the lift over a control group that didn't see your ad. So we don't count people who are going to walk into J. Crew anyways. And you really start to understand for a brick and mortar business, which is, by the way, I know it's hard in San Francisco, and I go back and forth, and I've lived in the Bay Area and New York most of my professional life. But 93% of consumer spending still happens not in e-commerce. News to everyone in this hall, but it's still the vast majority of the economy. It takes place in the real world. And so how do you take the 50% of attention in America that's on digital screens and connect it to the 93% of the economy that happens in physical storefronts? And that's kind of what we're out trying to do.
And that's the business of Foursquare now. It's almost like the apps are fun. People enjoy them, they're growing, but you're not trying to monetize the apps directly per se. Like your business is not like Yelp to get people to pay to manage their storefront.
Yeah, that's kind of our dream. It's kind of a Robin Hood dream, which is that, the amazing banh mi shop or this incredible little bar here that's a mom and pop store, they're going to get recommendations organically always in our apps. But Fortune 500 companies are going to pay for the whole thing. Like a third of the Fortune 500 are using our advertising solutions, and that's kind of the Robin Hood dream here. Yeah, and so the apps are less than a quarter of our revenue, and probably going to end up much smaller than that as our enterprise business keeps surging. It grew 170%.
It's great to see that you guys are actually sort of figuring out a real business here. I understand it's doing tens of millions of dollars in revenue, so I'm not that far off, right?
Absolutely.
So it's a viable enterprise, despite the fact that you got a little beat up in the media because it didn't become Facebook.
I think that's right. I think when back in 2010, 2011, the press, wholly without Dennis trying to create it, was like, is this the next Twitter? Is this the next Facebook? And that's always been the wrong question. It was never the goal. And Dennis certainly didn't set out to do that, but then you get this hype cycle. Whereas now what we have is a business that we're aiming to be a $100 million profitable business in the next couple of years. And
what will it take you, 2 more years?
That's kind of the rough range. I don't want to put a too fine note on it, but we just raised $45 million, and we made a promise that this would carry us to profitability. So that's a focus. I mean, I joined 18 months ago as COO. Dennis and I are partnering nicely together, and there's an incredible team of technologists who built the technology that, again, Pinterest, now Apple is using our data, Yahoo, Twitter, Microsoft are now using our data as the best data in the world. And so this team, how do we create a sustainable future for the company? And it isn't Facebook, and it shouldn't be. It's actually, I think it's a very cool goal to connect the digital and the physical world. Dennis has always talked about being the location layer of the internet. Yeah. Now that we have 100,000 developers in the platform, and we're about to launch more developer tools this year in the coming months, that dream is becoming real.
Hey everybody, let me tell you a little bit about InVision app. I use InVision app all the time with my designer, my product manager, my growth team to share mock-ups of our products. We take those mock-ups and we design them and we send them to clients, to partners, to investors. And we say, here is an InVision link. Open this on your iPhone, on your Android phone, and you can click through and see what this product that we're making is like. And when we're building websites, hey, put your comments on there. We have a partner. We have a big Smart Camp thing going on with IBM, Smart Camp 2015. We can use InVision to share that website and say, hey, is there anything you want to change? And then have a threaded discussion. You can take all those discussions off of email, all those discussions out of the chat room. Listen, email and chat rooms have their place, but not in product design. InVision is like Slack, but for product design, right? So you have Slack for a general conversation. You have Gmail for asynchronous communication. You have InVision for product excellence. You cannot make a great product without InVision. I am dead serious about that. Every startup I invest in, I show it to them. They ask them to send me links, and boy, does it work. It supercharges everything you do. I love this product. I love this product. I love this product. Get out of email, get out of chat rooms, and do what Twitter, Airbnb, Evernote, Adobe, and many more are doing. Prototype what you're doing in InVision. It just makes designers and teams and founders so much more efficient. Go to invisionapp.com/twist for 90 days free. That's their starter plan, free for 90 days, only at invisionapp.com/twist, invisionapp.com/twist. And everybody thank InVision App on Twitter. I thank them for making a great product and for supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. Let's get back to this amazing episode.
I love that we're in the candid portion of the interview. It's everybody's favorite part in the last 8 minutes. Let me ask you a couple more questions and get the candid response here. Why do businesses hate Yelp so much? Why do you think there's so much venom? They're making a documentary about how small businesses feel beat up by Yelp. There seems to be a lot of bad karma. You guys actually have an inside seat to this. Obviously, people put you as competitors, even though you don't compete on a customer basis, I don't think. No, but the products are similar in Foursquare and Yelp. Why do businesses hate Yelp on such a large scale?
I think so. Yelp was a pioneer company, and they really, if you look back at what the team wanted to do, they really wanted to make the yellow pages online. They wanted to be a directory. And so to this day, and Foursquare doesn't do anything that Yelp does in terms of business model, to your point, but they have a boiler room of hundreds and thousands of people now who call small businesses and try to get them to pay $400 a month. And the mythology was that if you didn't pay up, that they would, the bad reviews would show up, and if you paid, that you could get the bad reviews lowered. That isn't necessarily true, but the mythology has been true. But I think the problem is Yelp hasn't really innovated technologically. They're still looking just at recreating this Yellow Pages business. So they don't have, they haven't invested in the technology like we have to understand if they're driving incremental business to these small businesses. These mom and pop shops aren't very sophisticated. And so it's hard to measure. And so they get frustrated. And to some extent, any user-generated content site, people write bad reviews, and it's about the culture you create. Yelp, for some reason, has turned into a culture where people write these Dostoevsky-length reviews, and they work out their personal issues in these essays. And then there's a lot of allegations of the owner's, cousin is writing the reviews. And so all of that has made small business owners upset. I don't know that it's entirely fair to Yelp. but I think they haven't innovated enough to show the value to these small business owners. And so again, our model is more like, we don't actually sell.
So you think they have a perception problem largely? Is it because they let you pin, they still have that feature where you pin the #1 review up top? What do you think it is that this if you don't, where did this mythology come from, do you think? Do you think it was just over-aggressive salespeople?
Yeah, I think that's true. They had this sort of boiler room sales culture, and it was hard for them. But we do a lot of market research. Other than the fact that we both make city guides, we have none of the same customers. So we don't compete with them. We have Fortune 500 and developer customers. They exclusively sell to mom and pop businesses. So we have zero customer overlap. I just think that they haven't innovated at the pace. I mean, what's material new thing have they done? They've stuck with this original vision, which is to put the yellow pages on the internet, and so but customers do like them. I mean, our users love us, but there's a lot of people who like Yelp. So I think it's a little unfair. Okay. Yelp gets a little beat up, I think, unfairly, and it's tough as a public company. But I think the better criticism of them is that they really are doing the exact same thing, putting a listing on the internet that they were doing a decade ago, and that's the problem, I think, more deeply for Yelp.
Let me ask you a little bit about culture. You guys have had I think a pretty beautiful culture around discovering your city and all this kind of stuff, and I think it shows in the reviews. It feels like when Yelp hit scale, the reviews all went to 3.5, and the sort of dialogue that took over was this, like you're saying, people working out their personal issues.
Yeah.
Where the food at this place was transcendent, but I had to wait 15 minutes for my check, 1 star. Like, how do you mitigate against that on Foursquare? Is it just that your community is such a magnitude smaller and higher end that you haven't hit that scale to have, the people working out their issues?
Well, one thing I would say is Yelp is very US-centric and we're very global. But if you look at the number of reviews and you count our tips, we're not that different. And we have almost 100 million tips, and they don't have that different a number of reviews. I think the difference is the culture. And very early, Dennis Crowley talked a lot about creating the right culture. So when you can't write a review, and we call them tips, on Foursquare longer than 2 tweets. Because we thought the world was going mobile first, and who wants to read a 2-page essay on their mobile phone? And we wanted to be able to ping advice to people, and again, that was a reason to be short. But the other key thing is we asked people, what's good here? Like, the culture was built around what's good here very consciously. So anywhere you go, what should you order? There's a secret back garden, there's a speakeasy door that's open after 10, and it's all these little tips to get the most out of every place in the world, not just restaurants, but things. And so it's this community of people who want to discover authentic, memorable places and help each other live a more authentic, memorable life. And so, I think maybe we're less mass market than Yelp, and so people are out searching for original places.
I want to take a look at slide number 10, which is the place insights. I thought this was fascinating. You guys were able to very accurately predict the iPhone 6s sales during that first weekend. And you could do this by, I guess, watching people come into the store.
Right.
So how did you know
so one of
to predict this,
Well, those shapes that I showed early on allow us to understand, again, even if the phone stays in a purse or in a pocket, understand how phones are moving around the world. So any place that people stop for more than 5 minutes, we have a good sort of snap-to-place ability to understand that visit. And so we're watching 1 billion visits a month now, and that lets us understand the pulse of the economy. And so we thought we'd take a dare, and we watched Apple's opening sales for the iPhone 6s last fall. And we looked at the last 4 years of foot traffic to Apple stores, and it turns out that foot traffic to Apple stores, the lift, that spike, closely correlates to how much consumer demand there's going to be for the phone when it launches. And we actually watched how many people in 100 countries went into Apple stores in the 2 weeks before when you could try the new iPhone, and that weekend, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday when it goes on sale. And we were able to correlate the foot traffic lift exactly to the lift in sales. And so Wall Street expected about 12 million devices sold that first 3 days. And before Apple announced, we came out on CNBC and said it was going to be 13 million or a little higher than that. Not because we were predicting, because we were watching in real time the foot traffic into Apple stores globally. And there's all kinds of, I think, industries that are ripe for disruption. How you cite a business, how you do commercial real estate, hedge funds, insurance, credit scoring, lead gen. All of this is done with very stale data right now. And our goal is that we kind of become this Nielsen of the real world. On an anonymous basis, we can chronicle what brands are up, what are down. We're helping like Fortune 500 retailers understand, hey, big retailer, where are 20-somethings going, where you're losing share, but they don't know where. And it's going, hey, maybe people are leaving Macy's and going to Marshall's and DSW. And we understand that by demographic, by DMA, and all of that on a weekly basis. And so that's a kind of powerful data set that can make smarter business decisions happen.
And any of the startups here can use the API. It's free up until some usage level, which is well beyond startups. What does it cost after you hit some sort of scale?
So on our developer page, you can find out all the pricing, but 99.8% of our developers pay nothing.
Right.
And so it's, again, back to the Robinhood theme. When I arrived, no one was paying anything. It was 100% free. And when I arrived, it was kind of like, well, maybe Yahoo and Twitter and Pinterest and all these folks should actually be contributing because they're using it 1 billion times a year or more on our cloud.
Yeah, maybe just pay for some of the employee base and keep the company solvent.
So now we've got a double-digit millions of dollars business in our location cloud as a result of that. But for developers who want to make a smart app, it's absolutely free to get started, and it's not until you're using it hundreds of millions of times a year that you start to pay.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being so transparent and honest. We're really excited that Foursquare has become, or is on the road to becoming a sustainable business, and it's a delightful product.
Thanks for the invitation.
Appreciate your candidness, Jeff.
Yeah.
Well done.
Pleasure. Thanks.
Next up is Adi from Houzz. Come on out, Adi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Tough act to follow, huh?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Welcome. How many people here use Houzz? Any Houzz fans? Raise it nice and high. Wow, looks like about a third of the audience is fans of Houzz. Your company has grown really significantly. Tell me the origin of Houzz.
Do you have the slides here? Or?
Yeah, let's pop the slides up. Here we go. They'll bring them up.
All right.
Let's see. There it is. Beautiful, gorgeous.
Wonderful. So, yes, Houzz journey. It just started with a house. Alon and I just bought our first house ever and had big dreams of how wonderful it's going to be to create our little nest. Unfortunately, this dream wasn't so dreamy, and the process was really, really difficult for us to pull together. From finding great professionals to help us remodel it and design it, finding good ideas, how to communicate what we wanted, keeping up with the budget. I mean, we got plans after invested a lot of time and energy in it that we just couldn't afford, we didn't like, we had to start all over again. And Houzz was born out of that misery. So one good thing that happened.
And what's the scale of Houzz today? Let's talk a little bit about how big this business has become. It is ginormous.
So Houzz started as a side project. Alon and I started it with our own community, 20 parents from our kids' school, and a few designers and architects in the Bay Area. And it seemed like bringing the technology to this very untouched industry was very meaningful to both sides, homeowners like us and the professionals of the industry, because this side project just took life of its own and organically grew to over 1 million professionals that are using it today, and over 35 million people that are using it every month.
35 million
completely
people
organically.
a month.
Correct.
Wow. And how many years have you been at it?
So in 2009, we started it as a side project, and in fall 2010, so a bit over 5 years ago, we decided to create a real company out of this side project that just kept growing like crazy.
Okay, and so here's the product. Let's talk a little bit about how the product works for those people who maybe haven't used it. We can go to slide number 2 maybe, because I think that's really the interesting slide.
Yeah. So Houzz has basically, it's available on the web, and it has the mobile apps as well. It has 5 major layers that people can use. First of all, we have enormous content there. We have over 9 million projects, amazing images with all the data that is associated with these images feature there, and people can browse the different images and save the ones that they like. But they can do much more than that, because we have the entire community over there, not just homeowners like us, but also many, many professionals who created these projects, so they can ask questions and learn more about the materials and products and how people did all these beautiful spaces. And then when they are ready, they can get lots of support from the community while they're in the process, hire the great service providers, architects, designers, contractors, and so on, and complete the renovation, or even if it's a small room, just a little design, and buy all the products and materials on Houzz.
So when an image like this comes up on the system, who puts the image into the system first? Is it a user who finds the image online like Pinterest, or is it the photographer, or is it the magazine, or is it the designer? How does this content get loaded into the system? Is it all of those ways?
Yeah, so this is a community-based platform, and as I said, we have in one side, we have homeowners, and renters and different people that just live in homes and would love to make beautiful spaces for themselves. And on the other side, we have all the vendors, sellers, architects, designers, contractors who work on all these projects, and they keep feeding the system with new projects. Because of that, we get way more than just images. We understand the full context of each project. You don't see just a picture and say, oh, I wonder what is it, what are the dimensions, where can I get it? You can actually ask all the questions. The people who build it are out there, and you have all the information that is associated with what you see.
Great, let's see the next slide then. So this is, I guess, the money slide, how you make money, correct?
Actually, this is not the money slide. So you know, we talked about money is very important, but we also talked about when you asked me, you know, to come here, and you said lots of entrepreneurs here, and they would probably like to find out, was it really a magic? You started with 20 parents from the kids' school, and all of a sudden you have 35 million people using it, and you didn't invest money in it. So what happened?
Yeah.
How do you do that? And so this slide is basically illustrating the focus that I think really, really helped us to get to this point. There was always a lot of noise in this industry. And noise can mean different things in different stages. It can mean investors that push you to monetize before it's the right time. It can mean, or trying to monetize even without the investors before it's the right time and before you have the right scale and the right product.
How did you know when it was the right time to start monetizing, and when did you start monetizing?
So that's a great question. I think that when is the right time? When you have enough scale to provide what you are selling big time and not disappoint the people that you are selling to them. But even more than that, when people actually come to you and want to pay you to give them something. And for all our revenue channels, it was exactly the case. So we kept growing it and understanding that real business is growing here because professionals were hired by people all over the world, and people were, by themselves making lots of transactions of products and materials. But it was the moment when we started getting the feedback from the professionals, the contractors, the architects, that the platform is providing them an amazing opportunity to build their businesses and grow them and get exposure all over the world. They actually would love to add on top of that the ability to build their brands locally. The local piece was never part of the organic platform that we built. So with that, we said, okay, and the more professionals that said that they would love to pay us for the local feature, we came up with the freemium subscription model, and that grew up dramatically because our existing professionals are adding this. So that was one side. The other
so
side...
they can just pay $500 a month or something, $100 a month to be featured and have a more professional local sort of, almost like a website used to be, but a presence.
So basically, they can pay to add the local feature to their presence on Houzz, and now they can build their brand and interact with people in an area that they selected. So that's one piece of the monetization, and it truly came from the professionals themselves that were already on the platform. The other piece was when we started getting lots of phone calls to the office where people said, hey, I saw this freestanding bathtub, can you ship it to Ohio? And we said, what? And then again and again, whether it was the core item or heavy-duty items for building big homes, people wanted us, because we provided that information. As I said, the picture comes with all the data. And so we have the green tag swinging. If you look at the app, you see all the products and materials. We just wanted to provide the information. And people started asking, well, give it to us. Take it to the next level. And so the more we've got these requests, we realized that's going to close that loop and for the people, and now they have everything under one roof. So that piece of monetization was born when the community told us, we're ready.
In a way, you wait for the community to demand the feature,
Absolutely.
As opposed to trying to have the community keep up with your feature releases. It's almost like by the time you release it, they're like, finally. It's almost like a slow product. It's very, very sophisticated the way you're doing it. You're releasing it well after they've thought about it, you've thought about it. You make them wait, and then boom, when it happens, it's almost like a cathartic release, like, oh, finally we got this.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's great because you already understand that there is the demand and people love using the product. You have the scale. I don't want to take anyone's credit card without knowing for sure that I can deliver. And I can deliver a very, very good product. So when I said monetization, I meant when we decided that it's no longer going to be a side project, and we took a deep breath and we said, okay, it's going to be a company. And both of us, my husband and I, we also said, okay, now we're going to have a responsibility. It's going to be a true business, but we need to do it at the right time. And the right time is absolutely the way you described it, is when people come to you and say, charge the credit card, just give it to us. And many people do it. And you know that you can deliver. So that's definitely one noise that you may have early days, that you want to really stay focused, develop the product first. Make sure that people really like what you're doing, use the product that you deliver to them, and then monetize at the right time. Other noise that we had down the road where different partnerships that came to different opportunities that came our way that may sound, wow, this company want to partner with you, but when you really think about it, it's not the right partnership for the company. Or even if they're willing to pay you a lot of money to license your technology or to do this or to do that, if it's not what you're really trying to do, if it's not what's going to help you get where you're trying to get, then just don't waste time on it. M&A is a great example. I mean, so much noise. Companies come to you, want to buy you. Other companies come to you, they want you to buy them. If you waste time on things that are not relevant and are not good and are not
core
in the path, you just ignore them. Say, thank you, lovely, we're very flattered, and move on. And I think all this hype of things that are not relevant, if you're able to remove that and really focus on what is it that you're trying to do, and how you're going to get there, I think it was very, very helpful for us. And what we wanted to do early days is exactly what we are doing today. We wanted to remove the barrier between people like us or anyone that lives in a home, whether it's a renter that is renting a small apartment or somebody that is building a custom home from scratch. We wanted to remove the barriers between these people and their dream to live in a nice place and the actual process, the actual service providers, the ability to get to all these people and product and materials. Technology is the name of the game, and if you put the right technology and you solve the real problem, you're able to do it. And that was our mission from day one. I think we removed lots of these barriers. I think there is still tons to do on that front.
Let's talk a little bit about internationalization of the product. Magnifique. You are moving into other languages and countries. I'm sure people were, French people were putting content into the system. Obviously, you got some sort of core base of users. How did you decide it was time to launch in other countries, and what kind of resources do you need to launch another language and country?
Yeah.
To do it right.
Yeah, so that's a great question, because for us it's way more than just translating it to another language. We're doing way more than that. First of all, I think not for every company is the right decision and you have to go international. Alfred Lin, for example, who is an amazing investor coming from Sequoia, he was originally with Tony at Zappos. At Zappos they've made a decision not to go international for various reasons. So it doesn't mean that if you don't go international, you're not going to be big enough or good enough. For some companies, however, like Houzz, it just builds itself naturally because it makes so much sense. And so without doing a thing, we realized back in 2013 that 35% of our users, both on the professional side, all the service providers, and on the homeowner side, are actually coming from outside of the US. And they are using it heavily to collaborate with each other, to work with each other, to find each other, even though English is not their first language in many of these countries. So we looked at it, and then we went back to these people and we asked them, okay, that's lovely. We understand that the industry is kind of at the same level of very immature and not developed in all these countries. How can we help you to do it even better in your countries? How we can transform the industry in your countries like we did in the US? How can we support that? And we got lots of great feedback from the professionals that it's way more than the language. In different countries, they have different professions that we don't have in the US. The content itself, because we have the community leg, we have the content leg, we have the commerce leg. The content, for example, for the Australian folks, reading about decoration and design during Christmas, but seeing all the photos that are coming from the US and it's winter here, while it's the middle of the summer there, was kind of, yeah, okay, but that's US, that's not us. So no matter how we presented it to them, they said, you have to localize it for us. We need to get the right professions. If we're in Denmark and we have product architects, and that's a profession that you go to the university and you study many years, give us this tab over there. So we said, okay, we need to be on the ground. We need to support the communities. We need to make sure that everybody is becoming part of the global conversation, but also we twist it and we adjust it to accommodate the real issues that each country faces on that front. And it really helped. The picture that we see here is actually an interesting story. It belongs to an interior designer from France. And he started participating on the global platform, Houzz.com, here in the US back in 2014. And was very, very active on the discussion side of Houzz, collaborating and talking to different people, homeowners, professionals. And then a couple from the US saw his work and said, we love what you're doing. We just bought an apartment in Paris. Can you do it for us? And he said, of course, lovely. So they did everything in remote, collaborating, using the tools on Houzz. In the meanwhile, the editorial team featured one of the projects that he did in Madrid, which is the picture that you see here. And Houzz Australia, that was launched at this point, at the end of 2014, really liked the project in Madrid and featured it in Australia. So now everybody in Australia got familiar with his work, and within 3 months from the original request from the US, he got clients in Sydney that said, we want to fly you into Sydney, we want you to do our Parisian apartment in Sydney. I think facilitating a global design language, the world is no longer limited to the houses and designs and product and materials that you see here. Now you can see everyone all over the world. You can hire whoever you want. You can buy product and materials from wherever you want, and that's opened up unlimited opportunity to create a true global design language. It's a lot of fun for us to hear this story, frankly, because originally when we started it, we thought about this as a mainly local opportunity. And the side effect of Houzz, of providing so much business to all these small business owners all over the world beyond their natural metro area, is just phenomenal. So I just love hearing these stories, and we get many of them every single day.
Okay, what are we looking at here? Design tools.
That's a sketch. So again, for us, it's all about the technology. How do you bring the commerce experience to the next level? How do you tie all the dots for people? People need to visualize things. People need to understand dimensions and what's possible and how it's going to look like before they purchase. So we released a sketch, and that became just a few weeks ago. It became very, very popular, both on the professional side, that they are now using Sketch to illustrate things for their clients, as well as regular users, the homeowners and the renters, that are putting stickers, measuring, checking dimensions, trying different products from Houzz in different spaces. And if you look at the next feature that we released, this is View in My Room. It was just released 2 weeks ago as an add-on tool. And basically, what this tool is doing is allowing you to use your app to take a picture of your room and place any product that you want in that room. And now you can see how exactly it's going to look like in your room. What's interesting is, since we launched it, 50% of the purchases that we had on the app from people that downloaded the app and used the tool were happening after people tried it in their room. So technology, again, and the ability to visualize everything, to connect all the dots, is very, very meaningful.
I wonder how the magazine and the architecture and all those magazines look at you, because it seems to me that a lot of what you do is, the role they used to fill in society, which was just, clipping and making pin boards and circling stuff and putting Post-its in there. And your platform is just so much more powerful because you can actually talk to the person who made that sofa or did that design. Do they want, are you replacing them in a way, or how do you look at each other? How do they look at you?
There is, room for different players. We're bringing something very, very different, and obviously they see it. We do have great partners that love working with us on the content side as well. At the end of the day, the significant thing that Houzz brought to the industry was the ability to tailor technology in a place where it was not present at all, and bring the entire community together and let everyone collaborate in a way that really changes the experience. So for homeowners like me, I couldn't express what is it that I had in my head. I didn't have the verbiage. Now I have it, believe me, but after hearing so many professionals talk about it and teach about it. But at the time, I couldn't express what is it that I want, what is it that I liked. And then I would go with Alon and buy books and magazine and say, oh, okay, this picture, and Alon would say, I don't like this one. Great. Now you spend a lot of money just to find one picture that only one of us liked. So I think they understand that the scale here, the ability to bring all these projects from the people that actually understand, they have the knowledge, they know how to do it. You don't just stare in a picture in a magazine or in a book or even online, but have no clue what's going on here. You actually understand, okay, here are the people who did it, here's all the information that they already provided. Oh, here are many other questions that people in the community asked about it, and here's what they had to say about it. I actually have a new question and I want to ask about it, and they respond to you. So you are able to go really easily between I'm dreaming, I'm illustrating it, I'm collecting what I think that I like to do, and then I'm moving to the actual build phase. And again, build phase can mean different things to different people. 35 million people, they're not all building huge mansions. We do have people that just decide, you know what? I live in a rental, but I want to have a beautiful dining area to entertain and have lovely dinners with my friends. How do I do that? And all of a sudden, everything became much easier. We empower the people. So I think that the magazine, the content players understand it.
Yeah.
They don't see us as, okay, it's another content player, because they say, okay,
here is Houzz. It's actually a platform that can empower us too and expose people to the
Let me ask you a personal question. As a female founder coming into the industry, you have great success now. I know that all the VCs are chasing you after you hit scale. How were you taken by, how did they respond to you when you were just getting started? And as a female founder, did you feel people took you seriously, or did you have to hit a higher benchmark than a man would have had to in your same position?
I was very fortunate.
Yeah.
Never faced a challenge on that front, and I think that a lot of it is because we were fortunate to meet the right people and work with the right people that didn't choose to join us because of my gender or not, but because of what we presented. We were also, to be completely honest about it, we basically, without understanding that we're bootstrapping, we bootstrapped it for a long time as a side project. So at any stage where we raised money, it was actually investors coming to us, and the product, the scale, the business were in a stage that changed the game for us. We never had to go and try really hard to get the money. But I have to say, I do have lots of people that I know, and this is unfortunate in the industry, that did not have similar experience, female entrepreneurs. I think it's getting better. It's not where it should be yet. But I think the more female entrepreneurs out there that will be successful, and I have no doubt that there'll be great, successful female entrepreneurs. Why not? Right. I think we bring lots to the table. Like, it's not about the gender at all. Yeah. It's about who you are and what you bring to the table. And I actually encourage not just female entrepreneurs, but also moms with kids. I think the ability to juggle and do things that nobody else can do is reserved to us. So I actually think there is a huge opportunity for the workforce and for the high-tech industry to get lots of talented people. And the more successful entrepreneurs that we'll see out there, the more encouragement to investors to support that, and then they'll become mentors and they'll become investors.
We're starting to see that now. A lot of female angel investors, Cyan Bannister, and then we have also a lot of female venture capitalists all of a sudden in the last year.
And you know when I'll know that we are on the right track and we are almost there? When people will stop asking me these questions. Yeah. Right? Because you don't ask people on stage, oh, you are a dad, so how do people treat you? Yeah. Or you're not at the right segment of, age or school that you graduated from. Yeah. If you have the true passion to what you are building, and you are willing to work really hard, and you make the right decisions, and you need to be lucky too, and surround yourself with many great people, you have a chance to be successful, even if you're not coming from a certain background. I actually think it's exactly the opposite. So
yeah, it does seem like coming from different backgrounds can give you a much better perspective. It's not everybody comes out of Stanford. No. And if you came out of Stanford, that's okay too.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Stanford is a great university, just around the corner, but no, you don't have to. Yeah. We actually have people at Houzz, not just different genders, but also because we have lots of great female engineers and designers and product leaders and all over, and salespeople, but also people from different backgrounds from all over the world. And I think this is something really wonderful that we have here in the Bay Area, that we have the ability to attract people from all over the world, as well as I see it in the other offices of Houzz. We have 9 offices now. The type of people that you can bring on board because they're passionate about the product and they're really, really good is just unbelievable. And they come from very different backgrounds.
I'm so glad I finally got you to come. I've been inviting you for a little while now because I've been watching your success and I love the product. So I'm thrilled to have you here. I think there's a lot of lessons for entrepreneurs about focusing on what's important, not letting people stand in your way, and getting rid of all those distractions. It's one of the things you've done so well is just focus on the core value proposition so relentlessly from start to finish. It's a pleasure. Big round of applause for Adi.
Thank you.